Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions and Danny and Tim's Music Scene. Every other Wednesday we do it. Every other Wednesday we have great fun. And, of course, Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday is always brought to you by Cinematic Visions. As I mentioned, let's talk some music and let's be all over the map with Tim. We've got big shows starting to pop up. We've got big names. We've got smaller venues. We've got everything from the Foo Fighters to Radkey to Garth Brooks to Willie Nelson and ZZ Top, Jason Mraz, a local institution of music, Grand Marquis, led by Brian Redman, documentaries involving Billie Eilish, historical photos, as I mentioned, Leonard Nimoy, Jimi Hendrix. As you can tell, we are all over the map. We are eclectic, and we are having fun this time around, as we always do. Hey, let's throw in a little Motorhead and Justin Bieber, just for a little bit more variety as we rev up another edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene as part of our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and it rocks and rolls, certainly coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Let's have a brief conversation with David Schmidt from Pro Millennial. David, what differentiates you from other financial organizations?
I would say the passion we have for seeing our clients succeed is probably paramount to what we do here. There's no joy greater than watching a client accumulate wealth. I had a client that I've had for many years was able to buy his dream warehouse. Nothing too extravagant, but we had a savings plan in place and was able to see him fulfill his dreams.
And what else motivates you in this industry?
Well, lately it's been finding out inconsistencies in the marketplace, ferreting out some more than questionable ideas out there that what we're seeing with Bitcoin and a few of these other cryptocurrencies right now. I'm of the opinion where if it's untraceable, it really needs to be regulated in a big way right now.
To get more information and advice from David, visit promillennial.com or call 816-221-7775. That's 816-221-7775. We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodall from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Tim, every 2 weeks we get together, and every 2 weeks now we sort of are making strides in the music business, and sometimes that creates good things and good thoughts, and sometimes that has us yearning maybe for other times and simpler times, but it is nice that we're talking about shows now, and big shows, and venues that are opening up, and it is getting more and more interesting, and maybe a situation where you're just going to have to start reviewing shows again, right?
Well, it appears that way because they don't get any bigger than Arrowhead, and they've announced the show in August by, one of the few people who could probably put, 55,000, 60,000 people into the place, even when we're still, towards the end of a pandemic, and there's still reasons to be responsible and cautious. But yeah, so they announced that Garth Brooks is coming. I think it's August 7th. His first ever show at Arrowhead. He's done stadiums before. Famously, I guess the stadium at Notre Dame, which ended up being a television special, and he ended up doing 3 nights in a row or something insane like that because, one is never enough for Garth. And so, yeah, that was announced. And then shortly after that, Willie Nelson's coming with ZZ Top to what everyone refers to as Sandstone, and out at Bonner Springs. It now has the name of a bank on it, after being named after a hospital and telephone company and all that stuff. So that's 2 nights in a row, and ticket prices being what they are, and probably people's budgets being what they are, I'm curious to see. There's definitely some overlap in those audiences.
Right.
So I'm just curious to see what the outcome is. The Willie ZZ Top show's on a Sunday, which usually doesn't affect things too much, but it can, especially if you're wanting to go to both shows. Let's say you live in, I don't know, Raymore or Peculiar, and going to Arrowhead and then Bonner Springs is kind of a jaunt, or even if you live in Overland Park, So it's not too easy journeys, but this is going to test people's thirst for live music, definitely.
Well, I think that raises something we've talked about a little bit. If during the pandemic, people who love music, how much they consumed streaming-wise that satisfied them perhaps some at a lesser price with convenience of being at home, and how much they're going to be fired up, which I think there's definitely going to be a group of the population that is going to be, because they want to get out and explore and everything. But it will be kind of a nice test case, because I think there are some people who probably said, that streaming stuff wasn't so bad.
Or even, that satisfied some people. I reached a saturation point where
right.
I definitely wanted to go out and be in a live environment. So Lemonade Park was about as extreme as I got. Like I said, we went to a record bar a few weekends ago, but there were only like 75 people in the place that holds, 300 when it's really full. And so it was about a quarter full. That was just fine. But I think there may be also, to go along with that, just some people who thought of getting out among 20,000 people, 40, 50, 60,000 people, just triggers a lot of anxiety. I think a lot of people got accustomed to being somewhat isolated and being able to control their environments and going to the grocery when they knew it wasn't going to be too crowded and all that. And I know for sure some people who were getting back into the water very carefully and gingerly and slowly because, not only are they trying to be responsible and control their environment, but it's just like the thought of being around a lot of people, that is something they became unaccustomed to, and they got accustomed to controlling, how many people will be around them. And like I said, when we were at Record Bar, I was reminded how when you're at a show, you're shouting to be heard and people are shouting in your ear so you can hear them. And that was my wife and I were talking on the way home, like, oh yeah, I guess I was reminded how accustomed I got to that and really how much I don't like it.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. And in keeping with that same thing, my wife sent me a link about a week ago, and we're going to go see Jason Mraz at Starlight. And one thing we thought of was that we've talked about was that maybe pricing would be effective and everything. And Jason Mraz obviously is a pretty high profile act, but he hasn't certainly he isn't like super hot right now. But we're paying with charges and everything about $75 a pop for just seats about 3 sections back, and I know there are $200 seats at this particular show, and plenty of them. So it seems like they're just returning to the same kind of pricing structure, at least giving it a go anyway.
Yeah, I haven't explored ticketing and pricing, and I was wondering whether it would be lower, just to sort of coax people back, but that didn't make sense because I'm figuring some places are going to control the number of people, or I assume that. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. And so they would have to charge a little more to sort of make up for it. I talked to a promoter who said, especially locally, a lot of the venue owners and the promoters were sort of negotiating a halfway point and some compromises. So, whether we're going to give you a better deal on the venue, and so you can charge less, so we'll get as many people in there as we can under capacity. And so there was a lot of that going on early, but I'm starting to feel like everyone's, because when I'm out now, it's like there was never a pandemic. That's what it feels like wherever I go. And I'm not going to Royals games or anything like that, but it's just that's kind of the attitude. I went to the farmers market in Overland Park over the weekend, and it was like it could have been 2 years ago. So I guess what I'm saying is the ticket pricing is going to be interesting. I noticed Garth at Arrowhead is charging close to $100 face value, which I thought it would be a lot more accommodating because so many people will be there. And he typically gives a really reasonable, he charges a reasonable price, especially, when he's been at Sprint Center, they've been, because he knows families of 4 are going to show up or larger. But they're almost $100 plus you throw on, the charges and handling fees, and parking's probably going to be $30 and blah, blah, blah. That's going to be an expensive night. And so with Willie coming around, it's probably going to be hard for someone, especially if you're in a group and a family, to afford both nights. So that remains to be seen. But I'm going to explore that, just where prices are, whether they're higher or whether they're lower or whether they're just like they were, a year or two ago.
It will be interesting to see people's appetites and things like that. And, I think that there's a lot of situations as well as time goes on. I think that Garth Brooks has created a situation, and, maybe Willie Nelson's in that category just because of his age. But I mean, Garth Brooks has created sort of a career of the fact that he's basically retired, but then he comes out and does these little tours and every couple of years now. But you still have a sense that maybe I better go or I won't see Garth again. So it's kind of a good situation for him, the way that he's sort of manufactured this situation where he's semi-retired or whatever you want to call it.
Right. He's someone I wouldn't worry about because he's always going to have, how could you not want to feel what he feels every time he gets on stage, which is just 2.5 hours of adulation and glory and euphoria. So I think what some of those artists have done, like George Strait comes to mind, where he did a farewell tour, and I was there. It was really sentimental and kind of bittersweet because I thought, well, he's of an age where he's got so much money and he has other interests. He actually runs a ranch. He's a cowboy. He's a Texan, and 2 years later he came back. Elton John did the same thing. But for Garth, I know his children are grown now, so he's not beholden to anyone but himself and his wife and his marriage, and he's going to get bored and want to go out. But yeah, there's obviously Willie's one where you don't know, and having seen him lately, it's occurring to me that he's 88, I think. He's up there. And it's starting to show. So yeah, if you've never seen him or haven't seen him in a while, by all means, be prepared, because he's not, one of my favorite Willie shows was in 2009, so it was barely 10 years ago, but it was very robust, very, very good. But the 3 or 4 times I've seen him since then, every time, it's just gradually a little bit diminished, and the energy is beginning to wane, especially depending on where in the tour you're seeing him, how long it's been, So, yeah, he's one to keep in mind, because I typically go see him whenever, and I'm not sure I'll have it in me to do both those shows back to back, but we'll see when the time comes.
Well, we think about Willie. I mean, the guys in ZZ Top all are in their 70s, I would say, and
Yeah.
I think about that, and I think it just depends on certain. I think about that with the guy I was talking about, Mark Knopfler. I saw him a couple of years ago, and now we've had the pandemic, and he wrote a show for Broadway, which still hasn't been released, or the West End, a Broadway show, and then you're just thinking, well, maybe that's it, and you're hoping not, but so the same type of thing, because many of our, people of our generation, or even a little bit younger, follow acts that are now of that age. So you just really don't know. You don't have a sense of it. It's it creates a certain amount of mystery.
Well, while we're talking about this, I just called up this show because I wanted to mention a local band that's opening. But so August 5th, which is 2 days before Garth and 3 days before Willie, Foo Fighters are out at Sandstone. And the opening band is Radke, who is from Kansas City, which is huge, just absolutely huge for them. They're on, I think they're doing 4 or 5 shows on this tour. Now, Dave Grohl did the documentary, whose name escapes me now, but it's about touring. It's about bands that tour and getting in the band and just writing all over the place, when you're a new band and a young band, and just getting the momentum going. And he included Radke in the documentary, and they're featured somewhat prominently, and they're in the promotion of the documentary. So they became known to him, they became friendly, and he invited them on to open his tour for like 4 or 5 shows. And concurrent with that is they are both playing Lollapalooza. So one of the stops before they get to Kansas City is in Chicago for Lollapalooza. So huge moment for Radke. They did some shows with Jack White a couple of years ago that I guess I was expecting would, it didn't include a show out here, but would really launch them into the next level. And this seems to be giving them an incredible amount of momentum, because they're at Lollapalooza, they're at Riot Fest, they're doing big festivals, and they're also opening for another pretty big 90s punk band, Local H, which is on tour, and Radke will be the opening band. So, and that show's coming to Record Bar in October. So if you've not seen Radke, here's your chance. But like I said, that's just another huge show, because Foo Fighters will put 18,000 people in a Sandstone in a heartbeat. So that's 3 huge days. Like, I don't think I'm ever seeing where shows of that magnitude are coming. One's on a Thursday and the third one's on a Sunday.
And the Foo Fighters are the band that is reopening Madison Square Garden to full capacity as well, and that's coming up soon. So they kind of seem everywhere. All of a sudden, the Foo Fighters are they're sort of omnipresent. And Dave Grohl, I think, has created a situation where he himself is sort of a cult of personality, and he's made the Foo Fighters cool again.
Right. Well, I know, using the term branding sounds a little cold and, really market driven, but that's what he's done. I mean,
right.
Whether intentionally or not, but it feels organic. I don't feel like he's out there pretending to be something he's not. He's just, he's so approachable, and he's so candid and honest that people are drawn to his personality as much as his music. And their live shows are just absolutely fabulous. The only time I saw them at Sandstone, they opened for Red Hot Chili Peppers, which after the show, I thought, that's the last time they're going to open for anybody because of their stature, but who would want to follow them? Because the Chili Peppers look like statues compared to what the Foo Fighters were. And the drop in enthusiasm and energy, people were leaving during the Chili Peppers, who aren't a static band, but I mean, Grohl was all over the place. At one point, was standing on top of one of the restrooms playing guitar, and, just being super Dave. It was fun. But I love their live shows because he just gets the crowds going like nobody else.
One thing I've heard from people who even are fans is that it's unbelievably loud. Is that true?
I don't think of their shows as being loud.
There you go.
They're not in like the loudest shows I've ever seen. Like most of those really loud shows were in smaller venues, like Motorhead at the Midland was the one where I had to stand out in the lobby and it was still too loud. It was painfully loud. So outdoors, it shouldn't be a problem.
Right. Absolutely. We're with Tim Finn. He's from In Kansas City Magazine. We're going to talk a little bit about that. You can hear him on 90.9 The Bridge as well, and you can hear him every other week on a Wednesday right here on Danny and Tim's Music Scene. And, of course, part of our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, which is presented by Cinematic Visions, and we're back at it in a couple of minutes.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Time to spend a few minutes with my good friend Jeff Dillon from Dillon's Heating and Cooling. And, Jeff, what differentiates your company from others in the industry?
Plain and simple, we're honest. We have integrity, and we're going to do things right the first time. There's way too many companies out there that lie, cheat, hide things from the homeowner or customer, and we're not about that. It's kind of funny sometimes. I actually am so honest with some people, it kind of surprises them. But sometimes it's good for business, sometimes it's bad for business. But ultimately, it's the kind of business that I want to run, is an honest one.
And that family way of treating things is part of your slogan, and it's also part of one of your great features that you offer to customers.
Our slogan is like family. Our most popular maintenance plan is called the Family Plan. It's very similar to a lot of ones out there. The little tweak that we do to ours, 1% off for every 2 years. They have a continued maintenance plan with us. If they have a maintenance plan for 10 years, then we give them 5% off. No questions asked.
You can find out more about Dillon's Heating and Cooling and all their great range of services at dillonsheatingandcooling.com. That's Dillon's with an S. The phone number, 913-214-1343.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Llewellyn for the 23rd Street Brewery. Thank you so much for supporting local restaurants, especially through this pandemic. And you know what? We're almost through it. At the 23rd Street Brewery, we have brought in a few more tables. You can wear a mask if you want, or not. It's your choice. Other than that, we're open 11:30 every single day. So come see us at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence.
We're here with Michael Barber, the CEO and founder of Microlight Corporation of America, the world leaders in laser therapy. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your product.
Our device is using a particular wavelength and power to reduce pain and swelling. My background is surgical lasers, but I've been involved with this particular device now for about the last 20 years, actually.
And I know that it works because I've had it used on me as well. And tell us about the relationship you have with your company and Canaway.
It's what I call a strategic business relationship in that Canaway, the leader in the field of the cannabinoid systems and CBD oil, but our device used in conjunction with Canaway CBD oil gives a better pain relief outcome for the patient.
And if you want to get that pain relief outcome like I did, you can reach their local representative, Sherry McCants, at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Back with Tim Finn. We're talking music as usual. And one thing you talked about is that I think we've wearied now after 16 months or so of watching some documentaries and such. But I know that you had some thoughts on sort of where our culture is right now, and I guess not a launching point, but I was looking just doing a little research for this, and I was looking up some 2021 documentaries, and one of them was with Billie Eilish, and it struck me that she's hardly had a decades-long career, yet we've got a documentary about her. She's a very interesting person, can reach all ages. My wife's a big fan of Billie Eilish, so I think we'll seek this out, although it's not on the platform that we have right now. But everything is right now, right this minute, and sometimes it seems like maybe it's too much that way.
Yeah, I think the first commandment of whatever artistic platform you're in, especially if you want to be mainstream and part of the pop culture, is there's really no such thing as overexposure, except I think when it comes to touring, like you don't want to go to a city too often because people will stop spending money on your tickets if they had just seen you and think, well, we'll come again next year. I think there were a couple of bands that did that. Like Toby Keith was coming so often, I think he just figured, well, I'm not going to come to Kansas City for a while because you could see the attendance going down. But otherwise, presence on social media is critical and has to be regular. And so it makes sense that as popular as she is and as curious as people are about her, that she and the people that are helping her with her career are going, we should do it now because we don't know where you're going to be 5 years from now and whether anyone's going to care. So certainly she has managed to, as much as anyone, sustain the sense of mystique about her, but she's starting to come out of that and doing magazine covers and just at her own pace, controlling the perception of who she is and what she's about. So the documentary, you're right, seems a little early, but I remember seeing a documentary about Justin Bieber. I was probably 6 or 7. I mean, he was right at the point when this came out before he turned into like the Brat.
Right. Didn't they actually release that cinematically? I mean, in theaters? Yeah, in theaters.
It's a really, really good documentary because it goes into detail where he came from. And he was raised by a single mom. He's Canadian. So you could see that, early in his life and all the video footage they have and talking to her, very respectful and polite, and it was very sympathetic to him, and as it should have been, because he came from humble beings and he was a humble kid and he worked hard to get where he was. And, he was likable in that. So, but he was still young then. And I remember people thinking, who is he? Van Gogh? Why are they doing this? And so it makes sense with her. And I'm really curious to see it. Like I said, I'm not on that platform, so it's not going to happen now unless it shows up bootleg somewhere. But, you have to, the dynamics and the rules are so different now from how they used to be. Anytime there was a documentary, back when I was growing up, like the Let It Be doc was just monumental because, here, finally some, behind the scenes look at the Beatles in a long movie format. And that was not very flattering. It's going to be re-released again by one of the, I think it's the guy who did, I forget, one of the British, Peter, what's his name? One of the British directors.
Right.
Who's got all the footage and they're sort of dismembering it and reassembling it as something a little more comprehensive. But that's coming out again, and we'll get a big reaction. But yeah, so it's the Billie Eilish thing makes complete sense, and that's just where we are. People want to know now, and anything that happened yesterday or a month ago gets old really fast, and shelf life is it's almost like it's anything that happens is like fresh fish. You got about 3 days, and after that, people move on.
And you've seen some historical pictures that kind of triggered that type of thought recently.
Right. So yeah, I'm on a couple of Facebook groups and pages where they go back to the history of the music history, it's television history, and in one of those forums, somebody posted a picture that I had never seen, and it must be 50 years old or so. It's a very candid, sort of somewhat blurry photograph of Leonard Nimoy looking very Spock-like, talking to Jimi Hendrix, and it's a really good moment. They're both smiling or having a good time, and so it had never occurred to me to put those two together in the same scene. But of course, you know, they were both big stars back then, and I was thinking, and I posted it, and a bunch of people said, "Oh man, I've never seen that before. That's really cool. I love Spock. I love Hendrix." Like, and then it's like, of course they got together. You know, why wouldn't they? And they're both fans of each other. And then it occurred to me, like, so this is odd. This is a picture that's 50 years old that is now getting circulation and it's fresh. I mean, obviously some people have seen it and it's been published somewhere, but didn't seem to get the circulation it deserved. But now, if you see something on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook that surprises you, and maybe it's something that occurred a couple of days ago, and you saw it a couple of days later, and then you show it to someone, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that on Tuesday." That's old.
Yeah.
Are you just seeing that now? And so, keeping up is hard. Staying fresh is hard, and it's like I was saying with Billie Eilish, you got to maintain a presence somehow, regularly. And you know, Mystique has been dying a slow death, and I don't know that there is any left anymore, whether anyone wants any part of it, because to remain remote and mysterious, it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't keep you in people's minds, doesn't keep them wanting to buy your music or to even remember you, because there's only so much space you have to acknowledge things, to read things, to watch things, and you're going to fill that space with something, and not many people are going to wait around and hope, you know, a certain band or someone produces something, whether it's an album or just a photograph of themselves. You know, it's like you've got to do it now, and it's kind of what made me think of it is that the picture of Hendrix and Leonard Nimoy there was a certain sentimentality to it, a certain romance to it. Like, yeah, that's when like stars were mystical and mythical, and I don't know anybody who's like that anymore. I mean, even, you know, our godsend Patrick Mahomes, there's so much out about him. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to go there. I don't even really love him. He's seems like a really good young man, but I only want to know so much about him, even though a lot of it's pretty much innocuous and it's, you know, choreographed. But I guess for a lot of people, there's no such thing as too much. I want to know more.
Right, and even Patrick Mahomes, I would say that he's, you know, we don't know that much about him. I think he's pretty. It doesn't seem like he absolutely adores the limelight, but he doesn't shun it. But yet, still, he's so famous that he's going to be everywhere, no matter what. I mean, maybe until the last year or so, when we're talking about football, maybe Aaron Rodgers was kind of like that, you know, a little bit. But it's. I mean, you have to make a systematic decision to not be everywhere, or you are going to be everywhere if you have any bit of fame.
Right, and I don't think he's he's obsessed with generating more exposure. I think he's probably, you know, at a point where only so much is enough, you know, because he seems like he's really humble and, you know, leans toward privacy. It doesn't want a lot of eyeballs on him, which makes the way he accepts it even makes him seem even more gracious, you know, even more likable, which means people want to know more about him. So yeah, it's I mean, the whole Naomi, the tennis player, talking about stepping back.
Osaka,
because she's 23, and as she said, like, I've got anxiety disorder. Like, I love tennis, but all that other stuff isn't what I signed up for. And I need to be in control of it because I freak out, you know, at times. I have spells of anxiety, and basically I'm inclined to kind of hibernate between matches. And you know, she's on social media. She's got a really great social media presence, but she's in control of that and can decide when she wants to say something and how she wants to say it. And one example of that was at a tournament last year. Her opponent, I think she won in the finals. Her opponent's name was Jennifer, and Naomi was being very gracious afterwards and bothered to ask, do you prefer to be called Jennifer or Jenny? And the woman said, oh, Jenny. She leaked and called her Jennifer again. And that was like a scandal. Like, oh, were you trolling her? Like, were you being mean? And she was just like, I just forgot. I don't know,
Right.
This is why I get nervous in public and then she had to answer to that for like 3 days. And so I totally get it. It's not for everybody, but also it seems like no one can control it completely. And these are the instances when stuff like that happens. It's like, okay, we're finding out about her mental health. That can be good. That can be beneficial, this discussion that is being had now. But she didn't really want to go there, but she had to because of all the pressure exerted upon her. She finally had to put her guard down and say, this is why I don't want to do this. Just the reaction to this is excruciating for me.
Right, absolutely. Let's close with a little bit of local Kansas City music history, I guess. In Kansas City Magazine, you did a Behind the Music with Brian Redmond, who has been a key figure in Kansas City music for a long time now.
Yeah, if you have not seen his band, the Grand Marquis, just by all means find them. They perform pretty regularly, and I think like most local bands, their schedule will be a little busier now because they've been hibernating for so long. But they are perfect kind of dance band, horn section. He plays saxophone, and he's a great dynamic singer. It's just all really upbeat and groovy. And so we talk about that, how he got into that sound and how that music appealed to him the most, and how this band's been around for like 21 years. I think half of his life, because he's in his early 40s. So he talks about that, and the band has navigated some personnel changes, and they've got a really hot trombone player named Trevor, who's in his early 20s, and it's a visual show, and the music is really brassy and supercharged and dynamic, and just a really fun time. And he's also he and his wife adopted a young boy who's from Africa, and he talks about being the father of a black child in America, and what that has exposed to him, what that has subjected him to, and how he's a whole part of that this whole reckoning we're all a part of right now, and his concerns and how he has dealt with it, incidentally, ever since they adopted this child. And it's a pretty interesting discussion. And he said, I guess we thought we were prepared for what we would face, but we weren't. And, I don't think his son's a teenager yet, but he knows that they need to be prepared for what's coming, because it's not the same,
Absolutely. It is a great read, and it's in Kansas City Magazine, where you can read Tim's work on a regular basis, and maybe on a more regular basis coming up as we get more and more music. Always fun, Tim. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Danny.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Cinematic Visions, an affordable and award-winning solution for professional media production since 2003.